beautiful and powerful.
Hi, this is Kaplan from the New England Motorcycle Museum, and you're looking at what is quite possibly the world's finest custom Honda Goldwing, built on a 1975 first year Goldwing chassis by a third generation Honda franchise owner, Kenny Ives Jr. from Bird Ives Honda. His grandpa opened the business back in the 60s. Then his father took it over, and then Kenny took the business over, and he just retired from the franchise business of owning the Honda franchise, and we bought some of the assets they had, including this motorcycle. There's over 300 hours of labor in this motorcycle, over $10,000 in parts, and the paint job on it. If you're a connoisseur looking for the finest construction quality on a custom Goldwing that money can buy, then this bike is for you. Starting with the paint job, it's a Robert Pradke, who is the Dave Perowitz of this generation, best painter anywhere in New England. $2,500, that's what he charged Kenny. If you were not a repeat client, it would have been more, but it's a $2,500 paint job. There's over $1,000 of powder coating and over $8,000 in parts on the bike. The quality of the components used for this motorcycle, all OEM Honda on the engine. There's going to be, later in the video, there's going to be a 20-minute segment where the builder of the motorcycle describes exactly what was done to every component on it. So I'm just going to give you a high level right now. I can tell you this, it was taken down to the frame. The frame was powder coated professionally by the best in the business. The engine was completely dismantled right down to the crankcase. The cranks were sent out powder coated. The crankcase was sent out powder coated. The crankshaft was rebuilt. The pistons, the whole top end, everything's brand new in the motorcycle. The cases, in order to powder coat the cases, then you have to chase all of the all the screw holes have to be cleaned out, and it's just a ridiculous amount of work to do it the way it was done. No expense was spared. It was a 3-month process with over 300 hours of labor, not including the research of the parts and everything else. We charge $120 an hour. You're looking at $36,000 in labor to have a craftsman such as Kenny Ives Jr. craft this motorcycle, and the best painters in the business, plus the parts. It's close to a $50,000 bike if you wanted this to duplicate this motorcycle and paid a shop to do it. Even if you found a shop to do it for $80 an hour, that doesn't have the skilled labor it takes to do this, you would still be in the 40,000 plus range. I can tell you this, there's only a couple guys on the East Coast who can tune these Honda Goldwings. One of them is Mark Olson, the other one is Kenny Ives, who know how to tune these carburetors to the T, and you'll hear in the video when he talks about what he did to just the carburetor settings alone. 6 times the carbs were on and off the bike until they were tuned to perfection. The exhaust is a handmade exhaust. This is the Delkevic components on the exhaust. This motorcycle is actually listed on their website and in their catalogs as an example of what you can do with their components. So it's a handmade stainless steel exhaust with the carbon fiber mufflers from Delkevic. The wheels are the original Honda aluminum wheels that were sent out powder coated, relaced with brand new spokes. Every bearing on this motorcycle, every gasket on this motorcycle, every bearing, the wheel bearings, the steering head bearings, all the bearings in the motor, everything's brand new OEM Honda. Kenny went as far as to open up the bearings if they were sealed and repack the bearings. Just the kind of attention to detail you're not going to see anywhere else. A lot of custom componentry on the motorcycle. The handlebars, the grips, the bar end mirrors, the clutch, the brake, the speedometer, tachometer, all custom LED, custom headlight with the custom CNC machine mount brackets, custom turn signals. The forks are in impeccable brand new condition, just completely rebuilt, powder coated lowers, all new seals, has a progressive racing suspension springs in the forks with heavy duty oil. Again, wheel bearings rebuilt, entire front ends all brand new Metzler tire, custom red graphics on the wheel. Of course, the custom Pradke paint job, the radiator, brand new condition, all new bearings in the fans, custom NGK plug wires, the entire fuel system completely rebuilt, completely dismantled. Every nut, look at the nuts, bolts, springs, pegs, all brand new. Everything on this motorcycle. This was a Honda dealer that built this. 3 months of bench time, and the quality and attention to detail is second to none. The brake calipers were sandblasted and then high temp clear coated. It's a full floating rear rotor. Rear wheels custom rebuilt like the front one. Brand new Metzler tires on the rear. These tires have a look like almost a flat track, kind of like a real aggressive looking look to them. Custom seat, fiberglass. Look at the quality of the seat. These are hot right now. The Cafe Goldwings are hot. This bike was in Daytona for Bike Week. Drew a crowd everywhere it went. I've driven the bike. It's absolutely top shelf. Undoubtedly the finest custom Goldwing I've ever ridden. It runs like brand new. It was not built high performance. It was built for longevity, performance and longevity. So it has the standard pistons, standard bore, and traditional Goldwing quality. This motorcycle is a 1975, making it 42 years old. I promise you, in the right hands, this will be in mint shape 42 years from now, because it's been crafted to perfection and built by the best in the industry. If you have any questions about the bike, give us a call, 860-454-7024. We're going to segue into the Kenny Ives interview where he describes the 3-month process and everything that was done. 20 minutes of a narrative of exactly what was done. It has the custom nitrogen shocks on the back. Just a fantastic handling. Spare no expenses, no excuses, custom Goldwing. Give us a call, 860-454-7024. If you want to come take a look at the bike, if you have any questions, you're welcome to come take a look at it. If you want a second opinion, have someone else look at it. Just attention, even on the front disc, the outside edge of the disc was powder coated, and then the discs were turned. Just a fantastic attention to detail. Every nut and bolt, every wire tie, just second to none for custom attention to detail. So hope it goes to a good home. We would keep the bike ourselves. I would love to keep it, but we need the money for the New England Motorcycle Museum construction project. So not only are you buying a piece of moto history, you're also helping preserve motorcycle culture by helping fund the museum. So truly a motorcycle you'd be proud of. Museum quality construction, and it's a one-off special. You'll never see another one exactly like it. So good luck bidding on the bike. I'm going to push it back into the museum, put it on display, and hope it goes to a good home and you have an awesome summer on it. So good luck and God bless America. Kenny, it's Ken. How you doing?
Good.
I got Junior here with me, and we obviously think this is the nicest custom Goldwing we've ever seen, short of the flat track one that you did. And it's so much work that you've done to it. On a high level, I understand it, but I didn't want to miss much on it. And I know you said obviously the paint job is spectacular. It's a $2,500 paint job. I think you said there was like how much was in powder coating on the bike?
About $1,500.
$1,500 and powder coating.
Yeah, and the paint job is done by Robert Pradke, which I would definitely use his name because he's got a very strong name in the custom motorcycle industry.
Robert Pradke, okay, awesome.
Yep.
A lot of what was done to the bike is on the external side is kind of self-explanatory. The relacing of the wheels and the powder coating on the rims and everything else. But on the engine, I've seen the pictures. You completely dismantled the engine. If you could describe what was done to the motor on a high level, a detail level, that'd be awesome.
Well, the engine cases are also powder coated, so anybody that knows that to do any powder coating, every single piece has to come out of them cases. So the cases were stripped right to nothing to be that satin black powder coating.
So that, yeah, they have to be completely free of oil and sandblasted and everything. It's a lot of work.
And then even at that point, once they come back, it's scary as hell because you got to make sure that there's no glass bead material anywhere in any oil ports, that any damage was done in the powder coating. So super thorough with every thread. I run a tap through every single threaded piece in every case and cover to make sure all the threads are perfect. There's no helicoils or aftermarket bolts anywhere in those motors. All the threads were done. All the oil passages were clean, perfect. And then the motor's got about probably 4,000 or 5,000 miles on it since you got it, so you could see if there was a oil passage or a lubrication issue, it wouldn't last 4,000 miles.
Yeah, the thing's completely oil tight, and I took it on a nice long ride the other day. It's a spectacular running machine. You did an amazing job on it. The carburetors, are those powder coating also on the intake tracks?
No, there's no powder coating at all on any of the carburetor parts. Some of the parts I bead blasted and re-clear coated, but there was nothing that you could powder coat safely.
They look beautiful. The clear coating and bead blasting really looks like a silver powder coat almost. It's really beautiful. You had mentioned the carburetors, and I know the only other guy I know or trust to work on Goldwing carburetors that would do it right is Mark Olson, and you had mentioned that and Mark's, I've seen him struggle with these. You had said that it took what was it, 6 tries you said to go through the carburetors and get them perfect?
Yeah, the issue that I had was the service manual is built off specs off of gasoline that was being produced in 1975. So our gasoline has changed so much through the years. Now the fuel that we're running these old carbureted point ignition bikes on, there's no real specs, nothing. It's trial and error, and then seat of the pants riding the bike to get it to perform. It took me a long time because if someone reads the service manual on a Goldwing, there's a float height, but there's also a stopper on the float for how far the float hangs down. And it is so weird of how little travel there is on the float. The specs that I came up with for the droop on the float and the height on the float are not even close to what the Honda service manual says. The Honda service manual float specs, the bike ran like total crap.
Huh. That's pretty cool. I guess the ethanol and pump gas and the different fuels does play a part in that, for sure. If you had to guesstimate how many hours you had into the engine and carbs alone with the complete, crank up rebuild on the engine, what would you guesstimate you had for a time into that? And then I think including you custom built part of the exhaust. I guess a lot of that looks like it was custom too.
Yeah, I'd really have to sit down and think, but kind of shooting from the hip, there's probably in the ballpark of 100 hours.
On the engine?
Engine, carburetors, yeah.
And as far as the rest of it, I mean, there's a tremendous amount. You got a custom tailpiece on the bike. The brakes have been gone through. Everything's been redone on it. The front forks look brand new. How much time on the rest of the bike? There's got to be a substantial amount there. You're lacing the wheels alone.
Well, even every part that I touched, even from something as trivial as wheel bearings, were brand new. When I knocked out bearings, I don't care how good the bearings look. When you bang them out and you're banging on the inner part of the race, you damage a bearing. So when I took bearings out, brand new bearings went in. And not only when brand new bearings go in, I don't even trust the bearing manufacturer. I pop the seals off and re-grease the brand new bearings before they go back in.
Wow.
Even from the calipers of new pistons, new seals, all new crush washers, the forks, brand new OEM Honda fork seals. Everything that I touched, there was no compromise. If I came across something as I was building it that wasn't right, I just stopped and waited till I had the correct part. Sometimes with older bikes like that, it took me weeks to source a little piece or a part to get the right part. The front forks, it was easy to get progressive fork springs, but that was common back in the day, so I put brand new progressive springs in the forks and then a little heavier oil. That was something we did back in the day anyway. But every single thing I touched was new.
The headlight looks like it was powder coated, or it's really cool finish, like a matte finish, and the brackets for the headlamp, those all look custom too, and the speedometer, everything's really spectacular quality.
There's a lot of hours because the wire harness on a Goldwing, anybody that's played with a Goldwing, even an older one like that, knows how much stuff is in the harness. And that wire harness I completely cut apart and spread out on the bench. So I just used the necessary wires, and I went out of my way not to put any aftermarket different weird connectors where I didn't have to. Right? I just spent a lot of time trying to preserve all the OEM Honda connectors. I have a lot of faith in the Honda stuff and keeping it best as possible.
The what was the time frame from start? I mean, obviously you had to send out the tins to get painted, powder coating, ordering of parts. What was it like start to finish? Did you have a timeline of how long it took to build the whole bike?
I think I did it super fast. It was about 3 months from start to finish.
Wow, that's impressive. We just finished a Triumph 750 that was a rebuild to an NOS stock, and it took us like a year and a half.
Well,
a year on and off, We didn't work on it straight through, but just sourcing parts and sending stuff out, and this doesn't fit, and that doesn't fit. And with the amount of custom work you had in here, that's impressive. How did you find the time to do that? Man.
I started January, so it was the slowest time of the month for my motorcycle dealership. And then I have great connections with Connecticut Coatings and the chrome plater. So any of the CAD plating and powder coating, them guys I've got a relationship with for over 20 years. They take super care of me. They turn stuff around fast. Me and Robert Pradke been best friends for 30 years. So when I brought stuff to Robert to paint, he took really good care of me. So everything went pretty quick.
That's awesome. The exhaust, is that handmade, or is it a kit or something? How did you? I've never seen a 2 and a 2, a 4 and a 2 quite like this on a Goldwing.
Yeah, the company I believe is from Italy, Delkvik, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. They make an exhaust. They make the head pipes and the Y pipes where they come together. But they make it more for a Goldwing. Like if you looked at their original version, big giant canisters, flat canisters that come all the way out to the end of the rear wheel, that was designed to go under bags. So I started looking at their stuff, and I loved their welding, and I loved the quality of the material and the head pipes and the Y pipes. So I called them and talked to them to get them to sell me just what I wanted. I had them sell me the head pipes and sell me the Y pipes, and then I modified the Y pipes, and I was looking through some of their other stuff, and I had them not sell me the typical Goldwing cans. They sold me these real short cans that are on there, and then they sent me, I want to say, a half a dozen different mounts, and they were super cool to deal with. They're like, just use the ones and pay for the ones you want and send us back the ones you don't want.
Wow.
So I just played around with how I wanted and cut and made everything work, but I pretty much made it out of the stuff that they already had.
So it's a custom-built exhaust made out of parts from Delkvik, which is a great company. I've used their off-the-shelf exhaust systems before on a couple of Kawasaki projects we did here, and I thought they were excellent.
Yeah, they said that they took pictures of the bikes, and I don't know if I told them they feel free to use them. They said that they were thinking about doing exhaust like that down the road, being so many more people are doing these old custom dirt tracker style, but not too many people do that with a Goldwing, though. I've
been to a lot of big events like Daytona, and I haven't seen any Goldwings. I've seen cafe conversions, but nothing to the level of fit and finish and detail on the two that you turned out, this one and the flat track one. Really, hats off. You did an amazing job on the bikes. It's a pretty stunning machine, and I rode it. Jen rode with me on it. She thought it was really a head turner on the road. And whose seat and saddle is that? Is that a off the shelf a custom flat track or cafe style seat? What's the scoop with that? Did you have to fabricate some there? Or?
A company in Florida makes fiberglass dirt track tail sections, and I don't remember their name, but they made it, and then I just modified it to fit this project.
Okay, the engine internals, those are all Honda. There's no real hot rod. It's built for reliability and comfort and speed, but it's not like a high performance engine build per se. It's more NOS or original Honda equipment inside the engine, correct?
Yeah, for me, working on those bikes back in the day when I worked for my grandfather, I knew some of the quirky issues, so when I took it apart, I wasn't taking any chances with it. It's got a brand new Honda OEM water pump in it. Then even from the timing belts were brand new OEM Honda timing belts. When we got to the gaskets, it was the same thing. I have so much faith in OEM Honda, all OEM Honda gaskets. And then knowing that the valve covers are notorious for leaking on those. I tried to use Honda black sealant so it didn't stick out, but a lot of times them valve covers leak, so I tried to seal them, keep that from happening. OEM Honda valve seals, OEM Honda rings in it. I stayed with the original pistons. They spec'd out fine. I just deglazed the block. And then that motor has got a clutch, starter clutch, and AC generator in the back of the engine. So if you have a failure of any of those, it's almost an engine out for most of those. So I put a brand new OEM Honda clutch, a brand new starter clutch in it, a brand new AC generator. The generator is a RIT. Can't get a Honda OEM, so I just bench tested that to make sure it was good before, but I still put a brand new one in it. Anything that I felt could be any problem, the biggest thing that was tough to find, that was a pain in the butt for that motor, was the oil pumps. And I'm overkill with me and Olson used to argue where Olson would spec a pump and he would check it, which he's right, and if it's within spec, he'd run it. But for me, anytime I do a major motor job, I just put a brand new oil pump in it. And that was really tough getting oil pumps for that motor. But every little thing that I could do that would potentially give me a problem down the road, I wanted to make sure it was perfect when I put it back together.
So the motor was stripped right down to, I've seen the pictures, but just to reiterate, they were stripped right down to the cases, and was the crank out of the cases too?
Yeah, to powder coat the cases, all the main bearings are out of the cases, all the oil bleeds, the internal passages are out. You have to completely strip them to absolutely nothing. So every single thing was apart, and you didn't really analyze the pictures, but I can show them to you and send them to you when we get time.
Yeah, if you could text them to me, that'd be awesome, because I want to put them in the video, in the pictures. Like in this part of the video, Kenny would superimpose. He's a guru with that. So if you could text me the pictures, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'll do that. I have a lot of pictures.
How many? So you got about 100 hours into the engine. What do you think the total construction time, actual, research and part, a lot of time went into this thing.
Oh God, yeah. I don't even know if that's measurable, because just the sitting on the computer at night, looking around, getting ideas, coming up with a paint scheme, a tail section, a tire you want to run, a handlebar. If there's anybody that's done a project like that knows you do it because you love it, because there's probably 200-300 hours total in the project, but all well worth the time.
So I think what made you uniquely qualified to build this bike is 3 generations. Your grandfather owned Bird Ives Honda, then your dad, and then you. So your whole life. I mean, when you were a teenager, you were building race motors for me at your family home on the side, and you're one of 3 guys I've ever trusted to build race engines, because my life's on the line when I'm launching off 100-foot jumps. So you're a highly skilled mechanic, but also your family affinity for Honda's, owning the franchise. You know probably more about Goldwings, because your whole life you've been around these damn things. You know what's going to fail, what to improve on. So you're really like the go-to guy to build one of these things, and it shows in the final product. I'm sure this thing is going to run along. I mean, it's a 75. It's 42 years old. I'm sure the way it is now, it's a prized possession. It's going to be cared for. 40 years from now, it'll still be a great running machine.
Yeah, really, it's Honda quality. Them things from day one, Honda just built an amazing motor, and I had a lot of fun with it. Where I didn't have any particular time frame. I didn't have a budget. I just did it for enjoyment, and I mean, that's where, honestly, I truly believe, it was probably Mark Olson and myself are probably the only 2 that could do that to one of them motors and make it run that good and make it be reliable when it's done. There's not too many people that ever worked on those things.
What kind of fuel? I know you're running race fuel now. What do you recommend running for fuel in this engine?
Anything to me in the high 90 octane. It's hard to find something that low of an octane that doesn't have any ethanol in it. But the motor is a fairly low compression motor, it's a low RPM motor, so it doesn't need 105 plus octane. But for what I can find out there, that's good, stable fuel that can sit around without having a problem, what's in there, I think, is about 103 or 104 octane with no ethanol.
Awesome, awesome. So, have you ever figured out what the investment was in parts on the engine? I know the powder coating was substantial, but in the labor, I mean, 100 hours. I mean, if you had a charge shop rate, that's $8,000 in labor minimum. I mean, we charge 120 an hour. Here, it'd be 12 grand if you bought that bike in to do that kind of work. Is just ridiculous. It's a. I mean, even to have the time to do it, you know, to in a shop environment, say, okay, we're going to dedicate 2.5 hours. You know, it's a lot of time. But as far, did you ever add up what was put into the motor on this thing? What the retail value of the parts would have been?
My wife yelled at me for not keeping a detailed list, but just in my head, I would assume that I had somewhere between $7,000 and $8,000 out of my pocket in just money, not getting paid a penny a labor.
So for the engine alone, or?
No, for the whole project.
So $7,000-8,000 in parts, and that's at dealer cost because you were a dealer and you knew how to buy stuff, right?
Correct.
Wow. So if someone bought this bike, if I wanted you to build me another one, it would cost a small fortune.
Well, the thing for me is a lot of people could build a bike that looks the same as that and runs the same as that and save thousands of dollars, where I was overkill on every bearing and seal, and I mean, just putting a new OEM clutch, finding the clutch for it, putting a new stator in it, putting oil pumps in it, water pumps, timing belts. There's so many things where I just wanted it to be as brand new and perfect as possible, where, like I said, when I started the project, I didn't have a budget. I just wanted it to be perfect.
You were building it for yourself.
Right. You could do the same job and use the old water pump, use the old stator, old clutch if it's within spec, the oil pumps if they're within spec. You could use all that and save thousands of dollars, but for me, that wasn't an option.
Yeah, clearly there was no. This is a no expense spared, no corners cut, labor of love. Definitely, you building this bike because you weren't doing it to make a buck. You were doing it for you and your wife to have matching Goldwings that are off the freaking charts. And I know in Daytona this year, didn't you get stopped everywhere with these bikes?
Yeah, it made me feel really good because to me, I look at it. You know, you look at bikes that are in Daytona that are $100,000 plus bikes. And when we'd pull up on Main Street or go out to the stadium or what, and everywhere we went to have people going out of their way to get pictures taken with the bikes, I was like, wow, now it kind of sinks in to, you know, how much other people like that style of bike, and that made me feel really good.
Yeah, it's an awesome machine. The rear brakes on it, what kind of rear rotor is that? It's a floating rotor. I've never seen one on a Goldwing. Is that a custom mounted piece, or?
Yeah, it's an aftermarket rotor.
It looks pretty cool. And the brakes, are those Honda calipers?
Yep, they're Honda calipers that I bead blasted and then high temp cleared them because I wanted them to look that kind of old school race bike look.
They look badass for sure.
And then the front fork, that bike comes with dual disc on the front. So I sanded, you know, completely cleaned up and sanded the right front fork because I wanted the single disc look on the front.
Wow. It's absolutely spectacular bike, Kenny. The rims, are those are the original Honda rims with that have been completely rebuilt
Correct.
and customized, it looks like.
Correct. Yep.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the bike in closing?
Yeah, you've probably covered about everything, but there's not an inch of the bike that I didn't touch and play with, and as obviously I stripped it to a bare frame, and any like bracket or piece that was on the frame that I knew I wasn't going to use, I was making marks on that as I took it apart. So cut those off, sanded the frame, you know, cleaning everything up because even the frame is powder coated.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, there's no way that you know, we could. I'm glad you had the time today to go over this with us. I'm sure we left a lot out because there's so much to the bike. You know, the custom levers and grips and bar ends and bars and everything on the bike's just really fantastic. Explaining to us everything you've done to it. It's a spectacular bike. Hats off. And if you ever decide to sell your other one, give me a call because that one's equally badass.
Well, I appreciate it very much, but I'll be out there next week because I want to check out the whole operation.
I'm looking forward to showing you the place, my friend, and thanks for your time today. Tell Jessica I said hello, okay?
Will do. Have a great day.
All right, take care, Kenny.